Owen's saying something super profound right now, and Hunter reacts.
Uh, the I couldn't think of anything off the top of my head.
All right, we got that. That's all I needed. Hunter, introduce yourself.
Howdy, I'm Hunter. I've been helping with the graphics for the Rubber Bridge and more. And
And more. And
yeah,
more
and
than more.
big like bold and italics more on that one. Yeah. Um, I've had the easy part of this. All the cool work is being done by YouTube.
No, well, not me, but this guy right here. Who are you? I'm pointing to you.
I am Owen. I was trying to think if I wanted to introduce myself with my real name or
Video ends.
just mess up the video completely.
All right, so this is a forced meeting for us to for the video purposes. What we are releasing, the very first thing that we're doing is not a contact instrument. Is it a VST? Is that what, like, what's the language that we use here? Because isn't contact a VST?
Yeah, I mean, Contact runs as a VST, and then you can make instruments that run within it. Uh, but we're making VSTs, AUs, AAXs. They're all just plugins. They're all audio plugins. It's just sometimes people say VST when they're referring to it.
The prototypes in the past were all made by me. Um, Different graphics, everything. I took them all down when I decided that we were going to do this whole Somerville Sounds thing and bring them back. And then I just assumed they'd be contact instruments. And then we got in this message, and Owen is like, no, they're not going to be contact instruments, John. So what exactly are they going to be, Owen?
Now they are just standalone plugins. And the advantage to that is that the people that want to use it do not need any additional software other than their DAW. So they don't need Contact. We're essentially making standalone plugins, which makes it so that more people can use the instruments we're making and also allows us to make the download process much easier.
And you're having fun with this, correct?
Fun. Yeah. Yeah, sometimes fun, sometimes not fun. But yeah, I am having a lot of fun. It has, Contact's really wonderful for a lot of reasons. I really like the processors that they provide. Um, but doing standalone plugins gives us some freedoms that we didn't have before.
Yeah. It's all great to me. And this has been kind of fun because I don't even have to pretend that I know anything that you're doing. And usually I have to pretend, like, what am I looking up, watching YouTube videos? And now I'm like, ah, I don't care. I mean, he's having a bad day with this, but I'm fine. So what our recent struggle is the certification process, which even I don't know what exactly we went through, but apparently we have to pay for Windows machines to be certified to make it a more legit process. Is that kind of,
Mhm.
I understand that correctly?
From the side of Windows, they want you to digitally sign a product, digitally sign software, because there are a lot of people out there that are making harmful software. Um, so essentially, what they're trying to do on their end is they look at your company, look at your software developer, and judge their legitimacy. And if they judge you as being like a good guy, um, they give you this digital certificate that you can use to sign your products to show, like, hey, this is not a virus. But you have to pay for that. My cat's getting in my desk. Yeah, so you have to do that for Windows computers, and then you also have to do that for Apple computers as well. And the process for Apple is much, 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 much easier than the process for Windows.
They were very concerned about whether or not I'm real person,
Or
including
your lawyer is real.
and the lawyer. They were really concerned about whether or not he was a real person. I didn't know what do you do after that. But I did joke in the email that I had to, I need to call my lawyer. I had to get a lawyer. And fortunately, I found a good one. We've come a long way from where we started to where we ended up with the prototypes, and I'm super pumped about it.
Yeah.
Do you remember how we got from A to Z on that?
I remember us talking about we liked the idea of it feeling like a sketch on a napkin in a diner, like where you just have this epiphany and you're like, oh, I got to get this down, and it's on a crummy little thing. And like portraying that was like always in the back of our minds. And then we also talked about wanting it to be consistent because we have this giant ecosystem that was once on Piano Book. Each instrument was a new learning experience. And so like visually, control wise, it all reflected these new sort of like, oh, I'm going to try sliders this time, or I'm going to try. Uh, and we wanted to sort of make a conglomerate look and like a conglomerate feel so that every time you were to open a prototype, you kind of knew what to expect. It had its own ecosystem. So I remember playing around with that. I started with a kind of like a flat, easy to recreate, little sort of pocket size looking GUI. It was like okay, trying to figure out like, oh, we should have like a graphic underneath it to represent the instrument each time. We played around with that, tried to make it look like line art. It was kind of hitting, kind of wasn't. And then we came back to that napkin sketch idea. I started looking at old patents and like the way that old patents look and feel. And there's this classy thing that like classy slash classic thing that Somerville has. And patents like like that feel was like a perfect marriage. I totally like did a deep dive rabbit hole on the sorts of like, like protractors and like charcoals and pens and pencils that people used in like the 50s to make, like a Stratocaster uh, uh, copyrighted illustration. And here we are. And so the prototypes now reflect that sort of like old sort of vintage heart.
One of the things I've enjoyed is that, I've always worked for the most part by myself. And when you get hung up on stuff by yourself, it's like you just argue with yourself over and over again. And there were quite a few times in the beginning where we all disagreed
Yeah,
on what we needed to do with
yeah,
this.
yeah.
There's a point where you're like, I think we all are like, okay, well, he feels pretty passionate about that, so we're just gonna do it. And there were times where Hunter had an idea, and I was like, I don't know. And then I just said, well, he knows more about this than me. And of course, Owen, I don't know what you're doing at all. So it's easy for me to be like, well, I guess I gotta do what Owen says. But my favorite, I mentioned something and Owen pops in the Discord and says, wait, what? And then we had to jump on and go, okay, let's reverse here. No, I've really enjoyed that because there's something nice about being able to just we're all creative people and we all have our own things that we're doing. But in this, we can be like, it's easy to, when the consensus goes one way and it's not what you think, it's so much easier to just be like, okay, well, that's the way it's going to be. And then you move on to the next thing. And we're working on so many instruments now. It's like we're finding this groove of, okay, well, this is how it's going to have to work. If it's going to work, I just really enjoy the process of kind of figuring this out with people that know a lot more about this than me while still trying to like, okay, well, what's the bigger vision for this thing? And
Well,
that's my way of saying I like you guys. It's been
oh
fun.
well, thanks, John. Well, but I think, I feel like I'm a learner in this situation very much in a lot of ways, whether it be software or just design in general. I really have no delusion that I think I know everything. And so honestly, I found that often we're all circling like the same thing for the most
Yeah.
part. And we just end up having different internal definitions for things kind of driven by our style. And so
Yeah.
like I'll think that one thing, oh, clearly in my head, to me, this would mean that we approach it stylistically this way. And
Yeah.
the end goal is still the same, but like we get there or we present it in a different way. That's been a big thing. It's just like, oh, we're gonna land in the right spot kind of no matter what. We just kind of need to
Yeah.
make sure keep chipping away at it.
In a couple weeks, we have something a contact library that
Yeah.
we are excited to share that we started a while back now, and then the plan is to kind of in between the bigger commercial releases to have the free or pay what you want model for the prototypes, and some will be new sounds like the rubber bridge is a new sound, but then we're going to revisit some of the older sounds that you all have seemed to like, but with this new look and the consistency. Hunter, I will say that my favorite part of this process, or one of my favorite parts of this process, is hearing what you are writing with these sounds. Because I was all like, I don't have time to like sit down and write some stuff, and then I want the sound of this. Not that you can use sounds in any way possible. Put some distortion on it and reverb, and you can have a metal track.
Yep.
But there is a sound that I really want to go after, and I love, and it's a big part. And you just drop in these gems that are like totally utilize the sounds in ways that I think are kind of unique for sample libraries, and hopefully give us a voice that's, there's a sound that is in my head, and the people that we are going to work with in the future are going to continue to kind of shape this. We don't. Any last words, Owen, Hunter, before we dismiss?
I'm just very excited about all of this. It's a lot of fun to be able to do something completely new, to be able to provide people with new tools, without limiting them to a certain format. I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to be able to make really great paid products, and then also make really great pay what you want products to allow as many people to use it as possible. I mean, it's exciting.
Yeah, that's a lot of where my like heart and mind is lately is like just the model of all this, like the way it's shaped. It's like super inclusive. It's way streamlined. I can't even describe how satisfying it is to download an exe, double click it, and then open my DAW, and now I have the instrument. There's no like serial number stuff going on. Um, that's exciting because like that's got to be if it's satisfying for me, that's got to be satisfying for other people. And that's satisfying in and of itself. I don't need to do any convincing that like I'm a big proponent of sounds in sample libraries that have thus like so far have been neglected. It's been like a lot of blockbuster stuff and a lot of like big epic or
Hmm.
cinematic or ambient or whatever. And there's just a ton of storytelling that goes on with music, um, that really like, when you look at all the people out there who want to tell these stories, arming them with stuff like this, I don't know, it changes the landscape of something otherwise that was a little bit more off limits. So
Yeah, we all met through the piano book community, in which we were grateful to have for so long, and through that is it connected to kind of the more orchestral sounds and people that write that style of music, and we still want to provide for that. But like Hunter and I are very much in the folk world, and that's, I'm sure I've mentioned it, but folk cinema is just has been stuck with me. It's like there's a
yeah,
whole there's a whole world out there of other sounds that we want to tackle that might
yeah,
not be as mainstream, but can really provide that original element to your scores and even pop and folk productions. I think we've talked long enough.
feels good. There's
Feels
plenty of
good.
stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, this is
I'm
the
just on the
official.
edge of growing tired of y'all, so I think, yeah, we should.
We picked up on that, Owen. We picked up.
Don't you dare put that in.
All right, to everyone who's still watching us, thank you, and look for more stuff, and we'll talk soon. And I'm gonna act like I'm turning it off because that's what I do.